is the key to success. Now I invite Mrs. M. Sharon Nisha, Assistant Professor, Computer Science and Engineering Department, to lead us in prayer.
Prayer. Dear loving Heavenly Father, we thank you for the wonderful day you have given us, Lord. Before the start of this webinar, we are all gathered in your mighty feet for your blessings, guidance, and support. Lord, enrich the resource person with your knowledge so that she will use her potentials fully, Lord. We also pray for the participants, help them to make use of this webinar effectively. Finally, Lord, we pray for all the people who are supportive to conduct this web program. Bless us and guide us. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
First of all, it's my immense pleasure to thank our management for providing all the motivation and for all the support in conducting this seminar. Also, it's my immense pleasure to welcome and thank Dr. K. Jayakumar, the General Manager for Development, for all the support and motivation he has provided in conducting this webinar. Also, it's my immense pleasure to welcome Dr. V. Murugan, the Principal of Francis Xavier Engineering College. Also, it's my immense pleasure to welcome Professor P. Brinda, the HOD of Computer Science and Engineering Department, for her support in conducting all these webinars in a successful manner. Also, it's my immense pleasure to welcome the resource person of this day, Engineer R. Manikandan, for this August gathering. Currently, he is working as a principal architect in Tata Communications, Chennai. He has 16 years of professional experience in IT industry involved in architecting, design, development, testing and documentation. He is proficient in developing the web applications using J2EE technologies. It's my high privilege for us to have you as the resource person. Now over to resource person.
Thank you. So I'll start with the introduction. I will take you through the AWS and the DevOps, like what is available in AWS and what are the services available, how industries use those services, and how you can learn and you can get benefit out of it, and also how you can make your career towards it. Okay, so AWS and DevOps. DevOps is nothing but development operations. Okay, so these are all these two are very trending technologies nowadays. In the recent years, these two are very trending. So even you can make your career there. You have to learn and you can make your career choice over there itself. Okay, so I have a set of PPTs. I'll share and I'll go through that, and I will take you through the services. Let me know if you are able to see the screen.
Clearly visible, sir.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll start with cloud computing basics. What is cloud computing, and then from there I'll move to AWS. Okay, so traditionally, how the B2B enterprise work? B2B in the sense it is nothing but business to business. Okay, so in order to develop an application, business application, so we need a hardware service, and before that, if it is a bigger company, let's say Cisco or any very big IT companies, right? They will have their data centers. They have to set up their data centers, and they have to buy servers. Then they have to set up their network infrastructure. All the subnets they have to create to connect all their work locations, and they'll be setting up their virtual machines. Okay, so the first 4 points all are related with the infrastructure. So these are mandatory in order to build their applications. So after the infrastructure, the application development starts. Okay, so whether it is a Java application or any other business application, you install on top of the base infrastructure, right? You should have a base machine, virtual machines. You install on your virtual machine, and you'll be having your databases. Then you will have monitoring solutions in order to monitor your application, whether it is always up or whether it is going down. The same monitoring solutions you will apply for databases also, and you will have logging solutions as well. Okay, so this includes a lot of time and money. So setting up a data center is not easy. It may take 6 months or 1 year. It is time consuming, and it is very expensive also. That is how traditionally the IT world is working on. Okay, now the trending comes like cloud computing. So what we do is we have our all our network infrastructure, or the uh, VM, I mean the virtual machines that we are hosting in a cloud. Okay, so we just buy those virtual machines and we start using it. So here in this, the first four points, so that we don't need to do. It is like simply as you go. So we just use and we pay for it. Okay, so that setup is not required. Data center or buying new servers, that setup is not required, because we are going to simply use what others cloud providers are giving. Okay, so that's why cloud computing is booming. So in definition, if you see, it is like we have all our servers, uh, storage and everything in a remote location, and using internet you just consume those services. That's what cloud computing is. Okay, so we have three types, like infrastructure, platform and software. So you people already might be already knowing about this: infrastructure as service, platform as service and software as service. So majorly we have three vendors. AWS is one, he is in the top, and Google and Microsoft Azure. So these three are the major cloud computing players. And Alibaba Cloud, that is in China, so they are within China. Okay. So with respect to the deployment models, I could say there are three types: private, public, and hybrid. So private is nothing but, as a company, as a B2B enterprise, I may set up my own cloud. Okay, for my entire organization, I may have one data center. So in that, all my servers I can install, and the entire company will be accessing those servers in all the locations. That is private cloud. Okay, so public cloud, like the AWS, Azure, and they are all having public clouds that is used openly. Even I can use, or you can use. You can create your own account and you can use it. That is public cloud. And hybrid cloud is something like it is a mix of private and public. In the sense, here I say on-premise. On-premise is nothing but, as a B2B enterprise, as a B2B company, I will have a data center. So I will be running my some of my applications in my data center, and some of the applications I may run in cloud. Okay, so that is a mix of on-premises and cloud. So some will be in in-house and some will be in the cloud. That is hybrid cloud. So this classification, it is primarily based on the deployment model, how we want it. Okay. So the AWS, Google and Azure, they are into the public cloud. So traditionally, all were having on-premises solutions. All the enterprises so far, they had on-premises solutions. All their applications were in-house. Everybody had their own data center. They had their own servers, and they had deployed their applications on their own data center. Since cloud is coming up, since uh, public cloud is there, some of the applications are moved from on-premises to the remote. I mean the public cloud. That is how the trending is happening. That's why cloud migration happens from on-premises to the cloud. Okay. And this is just a view, like I told the three categories, right? Infrastructure. So in infrastructure, it could be a network infrastructure and it could be a computing. So in network, if it is network infrastructure, you can create your own subnet and you can create n number of VMs in that and you can start working on it. Okay. Here, compute solution, in that you can create n number of virtual machines and you can start work on it. Okay. So the platform as service, in the sense, you will have managed services. So managed services in the sense, if I want an Oracle database, so I won't buy Oracle instance. So instead, what I will do is, already the cloud service providers will be having Oracle instances. I will just simply get it and I will use it. I will use it for some time, maybe for 1 week alone. If I need, I will use it for 1 week and I pay the money for 1 week. After that, I will discard it and I will my access will get removed. Okay, so that is the platform as service. And on top of that, we have application. So all our applications can be developed. So here, if we see a SaaS application, software as services, so all those applications are hosted over here. So software as service is an application, business application that can be developed and can be used for multiple customers. So primarily all SaaS products are deployed in cloud only, because they need a very large infrastructure and they cannot buy the infrastructure on their own. So they depend on cloud primarily. Okay. So advantages, you people already might be already knowing, like it is low cost, and with respect to the infrastructure cost, it changes from capital expenditure to the operational expenditure. So if I have my own data center, I have to invest money, right? I need to get everything upfront before I start the actual development for my application. Okay. But if when it comes to cloud, it comes as an operational expenditures. I pay money only for what I am using. Okay, so that is the model we are deriving, and maintenance cost is less, and software cost is also less, because we are going ahead with license based and duration based. One as a cloud service provider, he can buy one license and he can give it to multiple people, because the license is owned by him and the user alone is varying. So the cloud service provider will have the control on who is using. And it will be very helpful for the software updates, because as a cloud service provider, AWS or Google, they take care of their own infrastructure, all the updates they do. If I have my infrastructure, if I have my own data center, then everything I need to take care. So the maintenance part, it is primarily provided by the cloud service providers. I don't need to bother. Simply I have to come, I have to use the service and I have to pay and go. That is the kind of model we are looking at. And with respect to disadvantages, always internet connection is required, because we connect with the remote machines always. And data security becomes a bottleneck here, because all our applications, all our databases are there in the cloud, and because of that, not all the industries are migrating towards cloud. So for example, banking industry. So banking industry, they are not ready to move to the cloud because of the restriction, this security restriction. Whereas the retail and telecom applications, so all those applications are migrated to cloud. And even to Amazon, so they have their own infrastructure in AWS only. So all their servers are there in the AWS cloud. Similarly, Netflix. So you might be knowing about Netflix. Netflix is one of the biggest customer to Amazon. So they have their entire infrastructure in AWS. All their servers are there in AWS only. So that comes under media streaming domain. Okay. So these are all two examples I am telling. There are a lot many. And now, so we are in the COVID-19 situation. We are affected, and the people in IT, they are working from home, right? So we don't go to office. We connect from home. We work in our laptops or office laptops. We do, and there are situations where the companies are not having enough laptops. Okay, so the situation in March, the situation came suddenly, and many of the companies, they were not ready to provide laptops to all their employees. Okay, even Cognizant. So Cognizant primarily, they had all desktops, and they were suffering to provide laptops to their uh, employees. Okay, so what happened was they immediately went to cloud and they created a cloud desktops, and with that now people are working. That is how the work is happening now. It is, I'm just quoting an example, and there are lot many companies, they are having their desktops in cloud. So in AWS, there is a service called AWS Workspace. So it is a cloud desktop. So within a minute, I can create this desktop, and people can start using this. You can install your application over there, and you can start using it. Okay. So this is one of the example where we are using the cloud services. So I gave overview on cloud, and now AWS. Okay, so AWS, it is one of the cloud service provider. So AWS is the leading one in the cloud service provider. So they are in the industry more than 15 years. So they have a solution for almost all the services. They have covered the entire IT industry, I would say. Okay, and some of the this Amazon.com. So this you might be knowing. So we are buying our goods in Amazon.com, and the backend service, all those servers are there in AWS only. Okay, and similarly Netflix. So Netflix, all their infrastructure, that is in AWS only. They have their infrastructure there in AWS. Okay, and AWS, if you see, they have n number of services in different categories. So I will just take you through one by one. Like so, the compute is one. So there is a category called compute under AWS itself. So under this compute itself, there are a number of services. I have mentioned a very few. So EC2 is nothing but Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay. So this is nothing but creating a virtual machine. So you can create your virtual machine and you can start using it. You can connect from your local desktop or laptop if you have internet, and you can log into that machine and you can install whatever you want. You can work on it, and then you can delete the VM also. You have to pay the money for what you are using. So if you are using it for 1 hour, then for 1 hour you will be getting billed. Okay, whenever it is not needed, you can shut down it, you can terminate the instance, and that's it. Okay, so EBS is nothing but Elastic Block Store. So this is a block storage service, and ELB is nothing but Elastic Load Balancer. Okay, so if we have much load on our application, we will be using this Elastic Load Balancer in order to balance the load. Then coming to storage, there is something called S3 bucket. Okay, so this is an object storage solution. So that where we can store our files. Okay, many of the websites are using this service to store their static files, whether it could be a PDF file or any kind of file. So that they are using it, S3 bucket. Okay, and this is Elastic File System, EFS. So this is also used. The good thing is that this file system can be shared across multiple machines. Okay, so they will have a common file system, and this file system can be shared across multiple EC2 instances. So that is a advantage of it. If we have a specific use case like that, we can go ahead with this. Okay. And then coming to databases, we have RDS. So RDS is nothing but a relational database service. So here AWS supports 6 different databases under RDS. So it could be they support Oracle, MySQL, then SQL Server, and Aurora is one of the DB, and MariaDB is another one. Okay, so 6 different databases AWS support. So what we can do is, if we need that service, we can simply create an instance and we can start using it. So whenever our usage is done, you can terminate it, and that's it. So you'll be billed for what you have used. Okay, and DynamoDB. So this is a NoSQL database provided by database. So this is AWS has developed it, and it is their own database actually. Then AWS provides networking solutions, in the sense you can create your own VPC, virtual private cloud. You can create your own public subnet. You can create your own private subnet. You can connect with that. You can expose your servers. So those kind of setup can be done with this VPC. Then we have content delivery solutions. So CloudFront is one of the service. So CloudFront primarily this can be used for uh, caching solutions. Like AWS itself has many edge servers across the globe. Okay, so if you want to distribute some of the static content, then CloudFront will be one of the best solution. So we can host this service across different locations, and it will be very faster. Okay, and Route 53 is another service. This is a domain name server service. Okay, so you can buy a domain name with AWS by using this service. You can host your services in Route 53 also. And apart from that, they have developer tools also, like code build, code commit, code deploy. So these are all developer tools. So I can commit my code using this. I can do build of my code, then I can do the deployment. Okay. Then under machine learning, we have SageMaker. So these are all, if you see, these are all different areas. So compute, it all deals with virtual machine creation. Okay. Storage, it is primarily the object storage or some kind of file storage this has. So these are all related with databases. The networking solution, content delivery, and developer tools. So these are all bigger categories. Under these, you will have n number of tools. So all these are within AWS only. And we have end user computing as AWS Workspace. Then for the analytics, we have Elastic MapReduce. So we can provide, AWS can provide big data solutions also. Using these tools, we can just provide that. And these are all some of the services. So here I have provided with the categories, and here you can just see some of the services. EC2. So ECR is nothing but Elastic Container Repository. So where we have our Docker images over there. Okay, and this is a container service, and this is a deployment service, and AWS Lambda is a serverless service. And this I already told, ELB, Elastic Load Balancing, this also we saw. And Kinesis is a streaming service. So if we have continuous stream of data, using this we can process. And Route 53 I told, S3, this also I told. So accelerator, so this is also with CloudFront. So this is more efficient than CloudFront, and it is similar to that. And this is a caching service, and this is a simple queue service. We can create queues, and using that we can communicate. And this is a notification service, and the step functions and SWF. So these are all workflow services where we can create workflows or approval kind of mechanisms, and according to our business need. And this API gateway, we can expose our APIs, and we can give it to the external users. This is a email service. and Cognito is a authentication and authorization mechanism, and this is user management. And CloudWatch, we can monitor our VMs, virtual machines, with their metrics, how much of memory utilization and CPU utilization and network utilizations, and all those things can be monitored with the CloudWatch service. We can connect with our VMs and we can use this. And CloudFormation, it is a script that we can build and we can have our entire infrastructure as a code. Okay. And CloudTrail, this is used for the logging, and these things we already saw. So KMS is nothing but key management service. Okay. So EBS, Elastic Block Store, and EFS, Elastic File System. Okay. Then RDS we saw. Aurora is one of the database developed by AWS itself. And Elasticcache, under Elasticcache we have Redis and Memcache. So these are all caching solutions built in order to reduce the database hits in very large transactions. And Route 53, it is a domain name service. And S3 storage we saw. So apart from S3, we have Glacier. Glacier is used for archival purpose, and this snowball edge. So these are all used to transfer huge amount of data to AWS. So there could be a use case like I have my own data center and I want to migrate the data from my data center to cloud, AWS cloud. So in that case, there are many tools supported by AWS itself in order to migrate the data from my data center to AWS. Okay, storage gateway is another one. Okay, so Athena is a query service. So from S3 bucket, we can have the logging, and that logging can be analyzed using the Athena service. It is a separate service. So for the monitoring and auditing, we have CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and AWS config. Okay, so this will be very interesting. So if you see the diagram, this will tell you clearly about what as a customer we own and what uh, as a cloud service provider AWS is responsible. So if you see here, AWS has a number of regions. Under a region, you will have a number of availability zones, and it will have edge locations as well. Okay, so their hardware and infrastructure, it is globally present. For Asia Pacific, they will have a set of region. Asia Pacific is one region. Under that, you will have a number of availability zones. In Mumbai, we have a data center. I mean, AWS has a data center. So under this hardware infrastructure, you can create your VMs, your databases, you can create your networks. Your subnets can be under this infrastructure, under any of these region or the availability zone. Okay. On top of that, you will build your software. It could be your Java application or some other application. And as a customer, I am responsible for these things. So till this end, AWS provides all these, right? And even the OS they are providing. For a virtual machine, OS also they are providing. On top of that, you may have your own data, you may have your own application, and you may expose some of your VM ports to anybody else. So that for that you are responsible. If there are any attacks happen to that specific port, then for that you will be responsible. Okay, because that VM you are managing, you are exposing your port. Firewall configuration is purely with you once you are creating your VM. Okay, so and for my data I'll be responsible. So this clearly defines the responsibility between AWS as well as for a customer. As a customer, what I should own and what AWS should own. Okay. And so this will be the typical VPC creation. You may see bit complex, but it's easy in the sense This is the AWS infrastructure, like in the outer layer. So this is the AWS infrastructure. So this is one VPC, virtual private cloud. Okay, and under that I have a public subnet. This is a public subnet, and I have a private subnet. Okay, so using NAT gateway. So NAT, you might be knowing, network address translator, right? So that I'll be having in my public subnet, and through public subnet only, even the VMs in the private subnet will get internet access. So internet gateway is the one that should be connected with this public subnet with the routing tables. Okay, so this route table will manage all the inflow and outflow. So here you have to do the proper mapping. Then only the traffic will come and go out. Okay, and this is my private subnet, and I can have my own data center here. So from my data center, I can connect to AWS through VPN, virtual private network. Okay, I can connect a VPN gateway here, customer gateway in the uh, my side, and I can create a tunnel over here, and I can transmit data. I can connect to AWS through this VPN tunnel. Okay. And this network can be controlled with network ACL, network access control list. So here itself I have a control, and there is something called a security group. So security group will control the traffic to a EC2 instance, and this network access control list will restrict the traffic flow within this subnet. Here also the same. Okay, and these two can be connected, and these two can be externally connected to the internet. And with this, you can connect to existing VPC services, like I can use my DynamoDB service, I CloudWatch service. Through this, I can just connect with the endpoints, VPC endpoints. Okay, and I can connect multiple VPCs also through VPC peering. So this is one VPC, this is another VPC. I can communicate, I can create a peering, and I can communicate with that. So this is a high level diagram for the understanding how a typical VPC will be. There will be a public subnet, there will be a private subnet, and there will be VMs, NAT gateway will be there, internet gateway will be there, and network ACL will be there, and there will be a number of services. You can connect with VPN also. Okay. So CloudFormation we saw. So CloudFormation is a script. It is a custom script that we can write to create our infrastructure. So if I want a VM, or I want 10 servers, 10 virtual machines, and 5 database services with Oracle instance, then I can write script for that, and I can run the script, and my infrastructure will be created immediately in AWS. So that's what this CloudFormation comes in. Okay, CloudFormation does. So what generally the development teams does is they run the script in the morning to create all their infrastructure. While leaving, they just remove the infrastructure by removing that script, and all my infrastructure is gone. When I get into office at 10 a.m., I'll run the script. All my infrastructure will be at. When I leave at office at 8 p.m., I will run the script. All my infrastructure will be demolished. Every day, next day, I will do the same. Okay. So here I will pay to AWS for the cost for what I am using. Okay, so from morning 10 to evening 8, whatever the service I am using, for that I will be having it. Since this is a repetitive job, I am creating it in a script, CloudFormation script. Okay, so that I don't need to do manual activity over here, everything will be automated. And Docker, it is container technology. So now with latest microservices architecture, everybody is following the Docker. So everybody is adapting Docker, where it is the services are containerized and they are independent. Okay, so it is one of the latest thing that we are adapting and using. So with this, I just finished the AWS part, and I'll move to DevOps. I'll just give an overview on DevOps. Okay. So DevOps is nothing but developer operations. Okay, so development and operations, we can say. So the DevOps is nothing but a practice. It is not a technology. Okay, so the development team and the testing team, I mean the quality assurance team and the deployment team, we work together in order to achieve a better result. Okay, so we have to collaborate and work. That kind of mode is DevOps. So in order to speed up and the adoption, we have n number of tools to be adapted in order to achieve a better result. Okay. So this will show you the view. So this is the development team and this is the operations team. So operations is nothing but once I deploy my code into production and somebody will monitor the production application, production infrastructure, and they will report like what went wrong, whether everything is smooth, health check and all they will do. Okay. So quality assurance, whatever the code I write, some people will do the testing, functionality testing they will do, the regression testing they will do. Okay, so as a development team, I'll do the development, I'll push my code. So these three teams, they come together and they form set of practices, that is DevOps. So as a principle, if you see, we call it as CAMS principle. So it is nothing but a culture between the culture and the communication between the team, and we say automation of processes. So whatever the manual process we are following so far, that has to be automated, and we are measuring the KPIs. KPIs is nothing but key performance indicators, and we need to provide continuous feedback to the people, and we have to improve our practices. Okay, so we call it as CAMS principle. So we do with agile planning. It starts with agile planning. In the sense, we have to know what we have to do. Okay. So earlier in the SDL's life cycle, you might have studied waterfall methodology and all. So that is not widely used now, and everybody is moving to agile mode. So we call it as agile. Okay. So that's why the planning is also called as agile planning. So we have to know what we have to do. So that high level planning they will do, and they will have low level planning also. So we call it as iterations. Okay, so the whole planning, maybe for 6 months, if you want to do some work, that will be splitted to some 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 3 weeks of multiple chunks. So we call that as short iterations. We call it as sprints. Okay, so the planning has to be, it should be in an achievable way, in the sense for every sprint we'll be putting the uh, workable items, so it has to be in a completed way. Okay, it should not be very vague, and we should not give too much of items also in a short iteration. Okay, so the planning has to be proper, so we do agile planning. That is the first step we do. And then continuous delivery. So delivery, once we are done with the coding, so we commit our code, and we test our code, and it goes for deployment. So if it is deployment, once the deployment is done, then the test team, they will do the testing, and it will go to the, once they certify with that, and it will go ahead with the production. We will deploy it in the production. So this process, DevOps process, help us to do the continuous delivery. Since the entire process is automated, so we do the automation in the entire process, that you will see in the upcoming slides also. uh, so it helps us to improve the speed and the delivery. Okay, and testing, so we have to do the automated testing, so that manual effort is reduced, and you trigger the script, and the entire script is running to test the complete functionality of the application. Okay, we have version control system to maintain our code. There are a number of version control systems. So recently we are using JIT as a version control system, and for automated test we are using Selenium. Okay, Selenium is one of the automated testing tool. And some of the tools, if you see CI tools, I mean the continuous integration tools, Jenkins is one, GitLab is another one, and TeamCity is one. Bamboo. These are all some of the continuous integration tools. So these are all open source tool. TeamCity is a licensed one, and Jenkins is an open source tool, and this is widely adopted in many of the organization and the projects. Okay. And we do the continuous deployment because of the continuous code commit. Okay. And we use the other set of tools like Chef and Puppet. So these are all additional set of tools used for the deployment. And we do the monitoring in the production. Once we deploy our application in the production, we have to monitoring. We have to do the monitoring, whether it is continuously up and running. Is there any health tech issues? Whether any out of memory issues we are getting? Those kind of things we need to monitor, and we have to act upon it. And infrastructure as code. So as I already told in AWS we have CloudFormation as a infrastructure script, and in general all the infrastructure can be automated using scripts. We can create networks, I mean subnet creation we can do, and virtual machines also we can do with scripts. So the entire infrastructure will be maintained in scripts. So if I have a development environment, and if I want another development environment, in few minutes I should be able to create it with these scripts. So that kind of automation we are moving towards. Okay. And coming to tools, we have Jenkins. It is a continuous integration tool, and Selenium. It is a automated testing tool. Okay. And JIT is a version control tool where we maintain our entire code, source code in JIT. And Chef is another tool that is used for infrastructure management. Okay. And Ansible is another one. So that is used for the configuration management. And Docker. So it is used for the containerization. So in the recent trends, like we follow microservices architecture. So for that, Docker is fully supported. So we build all our services with Dockers, and as a container we deploy. And Nagios is another one, and it is Nagios is a monitoring tool basically. Okay. So this is just a set of tools. So Jenkins, Selenium, JIT, and Nagios. So just the icons to see. And this will be the typical DevOps lifecycle. You do the planning. So here also I have put. So it start with the planning. So we do plan, we build, okay, and we do the continuous integration, and we deploy, then operate, and then we get the feedback, and this cycle repeats. Okay. So because of this process, because of this continuous integration and continuous deployment setup, our time to production is very less. It is reduced a lot. Okay. That is the advantage of adapting this DevOps cycle. Okay. As a DevOps engineer, we need to have these kind of skills, like we have to know about DevOps tools. So I mentioned Jenkins, Chef, Puppet, and all those things, right? So those things we have to know, and Linux fundamentals we know. So we need to know how to create infrastructure as code. We have to write scripts to create infrastructure, and the continuous integration and continuous delivery also we have to do. So in Jenkins we used to call as pipeline integration. Okay, so we used to write shell scripts there in order to do the deployment. Okay, so we compile the Java code, we create containers as Dockers, and we deploy. We make the service up and running. So that kind of sequential steps we write as shell scripts, and we do. Okay. So this is the delivery pipeline. In the sense, for the DevOps, if you see, We'll be doing the planning first. We do the coding, we build it, we test it, we release it, and we deploy. So this is our production deployment. Once it is deployed, people will start using it. I mean, they are consuming, end users are consuming the application, and the application will be deployed. Application will be monitored, and it will be it will be taken as a feedback. If there are any issues in the production, you take the production issues, address it. It will go to the cycle, and it will continue. So this is the typical delivery pipeline. This is the process we follow. That is how most of the industries now they are adapting into. Okay. So this is the flow for a developer. So as a developer, I check in my code in the version control system, and this continuous integration servers, it gets the latest code. Okay, and I deploy the latest build in the app server. So meanwhile, I do the code analysis, and I publish the release also. In the sense, how much of on the code quality also is very important, along with functionality building. Okay, so that code analysis and robust maintenance will be there, and the bugs will be tracked also. Okay, so we do the testing over here, and there is a separate testing server, and this is a typical cycle for a developer. We commit our code, continuous integration happens, testing happens, and we give it to we deploy our code to the another server, and they execute the tests. Okay, so this is a brief diagram on the different phases. You have a planning. So in the planning, we may use Jira. Jira is a tool used for managing our work. Okay, what kind of requirement we get. So for that we will be using, and JIT is repository source control system. And for the building, we will have Maven as a build tool, and Ant as a build tool. Gradle is another one. And for testing, for unit testing, you'll be using JUnit, and for automation testing, we use Selenium. Jenkins is a continuous integration tool, so we can choose any one of these three according to our business use case. Then for the deployment, we have Chef and Puppet. Then for the monitoring, we have Nagios primarily. So these are all set of tools. Under monitoring category, we can choose any one as per our need or the requirement. Okay. So I have some inputs for you people. So you can focus on, as a developer, if you want, you can focus on the data structure and algorithms, and you have to know at least anyone. You have to be strong in any one of the programming language. Okay, then databases, obviously you should know one. Then any of the cloud technologies, and DevOps, if you want, you can learn. These are all. So first 3 points, these are all mandatory for you to get into the world. I mean the IT world. Okay, so this is on your own interest, you can get through. So currently it is, this cloud technologies are very much needed. Everybody's expectation is all the people are moving towards cloud. From on-premises solutions to cloud solutions, everybody is moving. And this is also needed because the productivity is highly improved, and the time to market for to bring bring a business application to market is very low because of the DevOps adoption. Okay, so these two are trending, I would say. Okay, and as a technology, if you see as a stream, I would say you can get into mean stack. Mean stack means MongoDB, Express.js, AngularJS, and Node.js. As a front-end developer, you can get through. And men stack is nothing but MongoDB, Express.js, React.js, and Node. Okay, and you can be a NoSQL developer, and you can be a AWS cloud developer, and you can be a DevOps engineer. So these are all different streams I am talking about. According to your need, you can pick up anything, and you can proceed further if you have the interest. Okay, and with respect to AWS, AWS is very vast. It is a ocean, I would say. They have n number of streams. you can be a developer and you can be a DevOps engineer in AWS itself. I mean AWS technologies. You can be a solution architect also. You can become a architect a role there. So these are all different streams. As a developer, as a DevOps engineer, as a architect, these are all different career paths you can choose. Okay, if you have interest on the AWS, you can follow these things. Apart from that, you have the data stream also, like data scientists, and for that also they have a stream. They have set of tools you can learn and you can use those also. Okay, so AWS itself has around uh, 11 certifications. So some on the infrastructure side, some on the development side, and some on the data science side. And data side also they have some, and they have something on the Alexa side. Alexa is one of the service they have, right? So for that also they have a set of certifications. So all are having different career path. Okay. So according to your interest, you can pick up something and you can go. Okay. And these are all some of the coding websites you might be already knowing, like HackerRank, HackerEarth, and LeetCode. So if you want to become a good programmer or expert programmer, spend 1 hour a day in any of these sites. So HackerRank, you people already knowing. So they will have a different kind of problems on different use cases, right? So you can practice. So programming will not come in a day or two. So we have to practice. So spend every at least 1 hour a day, practice there. Then after some time you will be an expert in programming. Okay. So I just give these 2 points, like always with respect to the business models, we can create platforms. So if you see the success history, Flipkart and Amazon, right? So they have created platforms to connect the producers and the consumers. So always keep in mind that whenever you connect the producers and the consumers, you are creating a platform. It is really a success. If you take any use case, this will be the case. So creating platform is key, and this you can apply to anything, right? So another thing is SaaS model, right? Software as a service. So there are many SaaS companies. The Zoho you might be knowing, and Freshdesk you might be knowing. So Zoho, they have a number of applications for small and medium companies, and Freshdesk, they are also targeting small and medium companies. So they are selling applications for it is a B2B application, and they are selling to many small and medium customers. So if you have any business idea, then you can build on these angles. As a SaaS model, you can just create your application, you can sell, right? So in terms of roles in the IT, you have different roles. Like you can be an application programmer or a software engineer, and you can be a software tester and automation tester. You can be a sysops administrator, DevOps engineer, and a database developer. So these are all different roles available in IT, and we. So these are all some of the trainings I do personally. Okay, so I do role based training. Like if it is a AWS developer, I do something, and I have set of things to do. And similarly for MongoDB and AngularJS also I have. Okay, if you have any other queries, just reach out to me, and I am open for questions if you have.
Uh, Sir, actually, we have got 3 questions.
Okay.
How AWS cloud differ from other clouds?
Okay. So everybody has own way of doing things. Everything is a cloud only. AWS is much more faster in the race, I would say. Okay. So much more faster in the sense they reach the enterprise in a very fast way. So they have many services which are not available with other cloud providers like Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure. They are very ahead in the race, I would say. Okay, next one.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next question. What would be the benefits of adapting DevOps in a business case?
Okay, so there is no DevOps is not for a business case actually. It is more to improve the productivity. Okay, so before we start the project, before we start the development of a project, what we do is we set up everything, right? We set up our source code management system. We do continuous integration, build setup we do, and the deployment setup we do. So all those things we do in order to improve the productivity of the engineers and in order to improve the delivery of the code. Okay, it is not a business use case. It is more on the operation perspective. Yeah.
Ah, okay, thank you, sir. Next question. What type of authentication is used in AWS?
AWS, they have their own authentication mechanism. Like they have something called IAM, Identity and Access Management. There is a separate module in AWS itself, and you can register your users there, and you can create roles. As if I create account, I can have access to the other users as well. I can create users and give. Okay, so they have a separate authentication authorization piece available, and you can integrate with other type of authentication tools also. So that provision, maybe if you are having Active Directory integration, that also can be done with AWS. So if your business application has Active Directory, then that can also be integrated with AWS. That is also fine. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. What are the challenges of cloud computing, sir?
Cloud computing, I would say security is a challenge that they are still some of the enterprises they are not ready to accept the security challenges. It is fine actually. That is the only challenge people see. And if we, as a consumer, if I go to a cloud service provider, then obviously if they increase the price and all, then obviously I will get suffered. That is one of the negative aspect of it. Uh, but with the multiple providers, there is very less chance to happen like that.
Okay, sir. Last question, sir. What's the difference between EC2 and end user computing?
ECP is Elastic Compute Cloud, and end user computing is nothing but workspace. AWS workspace, I told, right? So that is primarily used for desktops creation. Okay, as I can create one desktop and I can share with the users. EC2 instance that we will use it as a server. I can have a Linux host there, and I can install all my applications, and I can run as a server. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful and informative speech. Hope the participants have gathered the insights about AWS basic services, cloud information, DevOps, and DevOps tools. We, as the teaching fraternity, we assure that we definitely transfer the knowledge to the students' community, sir. Now, Professor Bislin will give the vote of thanks.
Okay, good morning everyone. It's my immense pleasure to take this opportunity to offer the vote of thanks. First of all, I want to thank our Lord Jesus Christ for helping us to conduct this program successfully. Next, I want to thank our eminent resource person, engineer or Manikandan for spending his valuable time and sharing his knowledge with us in this busy schedule. Next, I want to thank all the participants of this program. Without you, there is no success of this program. So, this program surely helps to increase your skills. Finally, I want to thank our management, our HOD ma'am, and all the people who work for the welfare of this program. Thank you all. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, all the participants.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.